The ambush. Captain Nexera stood at the helm of the Shadow Claw, her iridescent scales rippling with anticipation as she studied the holographic display. The human supply convoy drifted through the darkness ahead, their cargo ships moving in perfect formation like pearls on a string. 3 vessels, minimal escort, routine route. It should have been an easy target. Captain, preliminary scans complete. First Mate Zexri chittered from his station, mandibles twitching nervously. Cargo signatures consistent with standard supply materials. No obvious military presence detected. Nexera's violet eyes narrowed. 20 cycles of successful raids had taught her that obvious meant nothing when dealing with humans. Other species followed predictable patterns. The Centaurians fortified their valuable shipments with heavy cruisers. The Arcturians relied on speed and stealth. But humans, they were chaos incarnate. "Run the deep scans again," she ordered, tail lashing behind her. "Check for any anomalies in their energy signatures. Anything that doesn't match their registered manifest." "Captain," her security chief Kral rumbled from his post, "perhaps we should consider a different target. The Drachnid merchants are barely worth the fuel to chase them." Nexera cut him off. "This convoy is carrying supplies for the new human colony in the Cygnus sector. Medicine, technology, construction materials. Exactly the kind of high-value cargo we need." The bridge fell silent save for the soft hum of equipment. Her crew was professional, experienced, and more importantly, alive, because they listened when she urged caution. But they were also pirates, and the promise of rich human cargo made mandibles twitch and claws flex with greed. "Deep scans complete," Zexri announced. "No significant anomalies detected. Though," he hesitated, compound eyes flickering, "there is some unusual variance in their shield harmonics. Could be nothing." "With humans, it's never nothing," Nexera muttered. She had lost too many fellow captains to that kind of thinking. The humans had a saying, "Better safe than sorry." It was one of the few pieces of their wisdom she took to heart. Still, the opportunity was too good to pass up. The Shadow Claw was equipped with the latest stolen stealth technology, and her crew was the best in the Outer Rim. If anyone could pull off a human convoy raid, it was them. "Plot an intercept course," she ordered. "All hands to battle stations, but maintain stealth protocols. No one fires without my direct command." The bridge erupted into controlled activity as her crew prepared for combat. Weapon systems powered up silently, shield generators hummed to life, and boarding parties assembled in the launch base. Nexera watched it all with pride and a nagging sense of unease. As they closed in on the convoy, she studied the lead cargo ship more carefully. The Stellar Horizon, according to its registry, it was a standard bulk freighter, ugly and utilitarian in the typical human fashion. But something about its movement caught her eye. "Tactical, give me a motion analysis of the lead ship," she commanded. "Analyzing now, Captain," Kral responded. "Their course corrections are precise. Too precise for a civilian crew." Nexera's scales bristled. Humans were many things, but their civilian pilots were rarely known for precision. They tended toward what they called good enough for government work. "Hold position," she ordered sharply. "Something's wrong." But before she could order a retreat, proximity alarms shrieked across the bridge. Space itself seemed to ripple as hidden ships dropped their cloaking fields, not around the convoy, but behind the Shadow Claw. "Multiple contacts," Zexri shouted. 4, no, 6 vessels decloaking. Energy signatures match human military patterns. Nexera's blood ran cold. The convoy wasn't the target, it was the bait, and they had just swum right into the trap. "Evasive maneuvers," she roared. "Emergency power to shields. Get us out of." The first salvo from the human ships cut through space like lightning, their weapons far more advanced than any civilian convoy should possess. The Shadow Claw shuddered under the impact, and Nexera realized with growing horror that they had severely underestimated their prey. Again. "Direct hits on our aft shields," Krull reported, his usual stoic demeanor cracking. They're using some kind of modulated energy weapon. Our defenses aren't calibrated for it. Return fire, Nexera ordered, even as she knew it was likely futile. Launch countermeasures and prepare for emergency jump. But as her crew scrambled to respond, a new voice cut through their communications. Calm, professional, and unmistakably human. This is Commander Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your vessel is surrounded, and your weapons are ineffective against our shields. Surrender now, and we will ensure your crew is treated according to Galactic Convention protocols. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate why humans are no longer considered viable targets by any rational pirate operation. Nexera's claws dug into her command chair as she considered their options. The humans had somehow known they were coming, had prepared an elaborate trap, and were now offering mercy, all while holding enough firepower to vaporize the Shadow Claw several times over. She thought of all the stories she had dismissed as exaggeration. Tales of human supply ships that turned out to be heavily armed Q-ships, of cargo containers that released swarms of combat drones, of civilian crews who fought with the skill and coordination of veteran soldiers. Stand down, she ordered finally, her voice tight. Power down weapons and shields. Prepare to be boarded. As her crew complied, Nexera watched the human ships move into containment formation with practiced ease. She had thought herself clever, cautious even, in preparing for human tricks and traps. But that was the true danger of humans. Just when you thought you had accounted for all their deceptions, they proved they had layers of planning you never even suspected. First mate, she said quietly as armored boarding shuttles approached their hull, make a note in the ship's log. From now on, we stay well clear of human shipping lanes. Some prizes aren't worth the cost of learning why they were unguarded. The counter. Commander Sarah Chen watched through reinforced viewport as her Marines secured the pirate vessel. After 20 years in the Earth Defense Force, she had overseen dozens of similar operations, but something about this one felt different. The pirates had been too cautious, too professional, and that made them dangerous. All boarding teams report secure positions. Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through her comm. Engineering, bridge, and weapon systems are under our control. Minimal resistance encountered. Chen nodded, though her expression remained neutral. Casualty report. None on our side. 3 pirates wounded, all receiving medical attention. Captain Nexera has requested to speak with you directly. That was unexpected. Most pirate captains either fought to the death or retreated into sullen silence when captured. Granted. Have her brought to the command briefing room. Full security protocols. As Chen made her way through the corridors of her flagship, the Stellar Horizon, she reflected on the operation's success. The trap had worked perfectly, almost too perfectly. The Shadow Claw had taken the bait exactly as predicted, following the exact approach vector their intelligence had suggested. The briefing room was a stark, utilitarian space dominated by a holographic tactical display. Captain Nexera was already there, her iridescent scales dulled by the harsh lighting. 2 Marines stood guard, their powered armor humming softly. Commander Chen, Nexera said, her translator rendering her clicking speech into smooth English. I must admit, your operation was impressive. Thank you, Chen replied, studying the alien captain. Though I'm curious why someone with your reputation would risk attacking the human convoy. Surely you've heard the stories. Nexera's violet eyes narrowed. Stories can be exaggerated, but I'm more interested in how you knew we were coming. Our stealth systems are the best in the sector. We're the best, Chen corrected. 3 months ago, a pirate crew tried to hit a medical transport bound for New Mars. We captured their ship intact, including their stealth technology. Since then, we've had plenty of time to develop countermeasures. That's impossible, Nexera hissed. The Shadowtech stealth system was developed by the Arcturians. Their encryption was broken by a team of human engineers in less than a week. Chen interrupted. They were quite excited about it, actually. Apparently, the underlying principles gave them some ideas for improving our own stealth systems. The pirate captain's scales rippled with what might have been anger or admiration. You used us as a test run. In part, Chen admitted. But there's something else you should see. She gestured to the tactical display, which sprang to life, showing a detailed scan of the Shadow Claw. Your ship's quite interesting, particularly these modifications to your weapon systems. Nexera went very still. Standard pirate armaments. No, Chen said softly. They're not. The energy signature matches weapons sold illegally by the Drachnid Consortium. The same weapons used in attacks on 3 human colonies last month. We purchased them through intermediaries, Nexera said quickly. We had no knowledge. Of course not. Chen cut her off. Just like you had no knowledge that the Consortium was using pirate raids to test human defenses, gathering data for something bigger. But here's what you don't know. We've been letting them. The tactical display shifted, showing a complex web of shipping routes, attack patterns, and data flows. Every raid, every probe of our defenses has been feeding false information back to the Consortium. They think they're learning our weaknesses, but they're really seeing exactly what we want them to see. Nexera's translator couldn't quite capture the complexity of her curse. You're using pirates as unwitting intelligence agents. That's why you didn't destroy us outright. Among other reasons, Chen agreed. The Earth Defense Force prefers rehabilitation to destruction when possible. Your crew will be offered the chance to serve reduced sentences in exchange for cooperation. You, Captain, have a choice to make. What kind of choice? The kind that determines whether you spend the next decade in a maximum security prison or helping us understand exactly how deep the Consortium's plans go. Chen leaned forward. Because something big is coming, and we need every advantage we can get. Nexera was silent for a long moment, her alien features unreadable. Finally, she spoke. The stories were wrong, you know. They say humans are unpredictable, chaotic. But that's not true, is it? You're methodical, patient. Every seeming vulnerability is a carefully laid trap. That's part of it, Chen acknowledged. But there's something else pirates never seem to understand about humans. And what's that? We learn from our mistakes. Every attack on our ships, every probe of our defenses, makes us stronger. The Consortium thinks they're gathering intelligence on us. We've been gathering intelligence on them through every pirate raid they've sponsored. The tactical display shifted again, showing hundreds of data points converging into a clear pattern. Nexera's eyes widened as she realized the full scope of the human operation. So, Chen said, are you ready to discuss terms, or would you prefer to see firsthand why even the most ruthless pirates have learned to avoid human shipping lanes? Outside the briefing room viewport, the captured Shadow Claw hung in space, surrounded by ships that had appeared civilian but concealed military-grade weapons and defenses. It was a perfect metaphor, Nexera realized, for humanity itself, appearing vulnerable on the surface, but hiding layers of strength and cunning beneath. She had thought herself clever for being cautious about attacking humans. Now she realized that caution hadn't been nearly sufficient. The humans hadn't just prepared for attacks. They had turned those attacks into weapons of their own. The hunt. The tension in the Drachnid Consortium's high-security communications center was thick enough to cut with a plasma blade. Admiral Vexthor's crystalline appendages clicked nervously against the holographic display as he processed the information before him. The Shadow Claw's capture wasn't just a setback. It was a potential catastrophe. How many other pirate crews have we armed? He demanded, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. 17 in the past solar cycle, his intelligence officer responded. All provided with our latest weapons technology, all targeting human supply lines. And all. She hesitated, potentially compromised. Vexthor's entire form darkened, the equivalent of a human pallor. Purge the network. Recall all outstanding operations. We need tow. Sir, a junior officer interrupted, their crystalline structure vibrating with urgency. We're detecting multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Energy signatures match. Human vessels. The words had barely left the officer's translator when the first impacts rocked the station. Alarms screamed as human warships materialized from hyperspace, their weapons already firing with devastating precision. Impossible. Vex Thor roared. This facility's location is classified. The security protocols are compromised. A new voice cut through their communications. Commander Chen's image appeared on their main display, her expression stern but satisfied. Did you really think we wouldn't track the Shadow Claw's weapon signatures back to their source? Every pirate ship you armed was leading us right to you. On the tactical display, more human ships appeared, cutting off every escape route. But these weren't the military vessels they'd expected. They were the same civilian ships the consortium had dismissed as easy targets, now revealing their true nature as heavily armed Hue ships. You've been playing a long game, Admiral, Chen continued, using pirates to test our defenses, gathering data, preparing for something bigger. But here's what you never understood about humans. We don't just defend. We hunt. Vex Thor watched in horror as his carefully constructed intelligence network collapsed. Every pirate crew they'd armed and sent against human shipping lanes had been thoroughly compromised. The humans hadn't just been defending against the attacks. They'd been using them to map the entire consortium operation. Your security protocols were impressive, Chen acknowledged. But you made one critical mistake. You assumed that because humans appear chaotic and unpredictable, we couldn't execute a long-term strategic operation. You thought our defensive tactics were reactive, when they were actually part of a carefully orchestrated trap. The station shuddered as another volley struck home. Vex Thor's crystalline form vibrated with fury and fear. You used our own intelligence network against us. Exactly. Chen's smile was cold. Every pirate raid you sponsored gave us more data. Every weapon you provided led us closer to your facility. And now, Admiral, you're going to help us understand exactly what the consortium was planning. And if I refuse, then you'll learn firsthand why even the most hardened pirates have learned to avoid human space. Captain Nexara was smart enough to cooperate. Are you? As if to emphasize her point, several more human ships decloaked around the station, their weapons primed. Vex Thor realized with growing dread that they weren't just surrounded. They were thoroughly outmaneuvered. The humans hadn't just beaten their strategy. They'd turned it into a weapon against them. Every attempt to probe human defenses had instead revealed more about the consortium's capabilities. Every pirate crew they'd armed had become an unwitting beacon, leading the humans right to them. Perhaps, Vex Thor said carefully, his crystalline form dimming in submission, we should discuss terms. Chen nodded. A wise choice, Admiral, because while pirates might avoid human shipping lanes out of fear, they're about to learn why the consortium should have avoided them out of respect. As the human boarding parties breached the station's defenses, Vex Thor couldn't help but appreciate the elegance of their strategy. The humans hadn't just defended against their attacks, they'd weaponized them, turned them into tools of intelligence gathering and strategic positioning. The consortium had sought to understand human weaknesses. Instead, they'd revealed their own. And now, as human marines secured the facility with practiced efficiency, Vex Thor understood why even the most ruthless pirates gave human space a wide berth. It wasn't just their unpredictability or their advanced technology. It was their patience, their ability to turn apparent vulnerability into strength, and their relentless determination to not just defend, but to hunt down any threat to their space. The revelation. Word spread quickly through the galactic underworld. The fall of the Drachnid Consortium wasn't just news, it was a warning. In shadowy space stations and hidden pirate havens, captains and crews whispered about the true extent of human capabilities. In a dim corner of the notorious Black Nebula trading post, a gathering of the sector's most infamous pirate lords convened in secret. Captain Nexara, now working as a security consultant for the Earth Defense Force, sat among them, her scales gleaming under the low light. So it's true then. rasped Captain Kavor, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on Nexara. The humans knew everything. Every raid, every movement. Not just knew, Nexara replied, her voice steady. They orchestrated it. Every time we thought we were testing their defenses, they were actually testing us. Learning our methods, our technology, our patterns. The assembled pirates shifted uncomfortably. Many had lost ships and crews to what they'd assumed were routine human convoys. Now those losses took on a different meaning. But that's not the worst of it, Nexara continued. Commander Chen showed me something before I agreed to work with them. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about human space. She activated a small holoprojector, displaying a complex network of shipping routes and patrol patterns. At first glance, it looked chaotic, unpredictable, typically human. But as the assembled pirates watched, patterns emerged. Their entire transport network, she explained, every seemingly vulnerable convoy, every apparently undefended route. It's all part of a vast defensive web. They don't just protect their ships. They use them as bait, as sensors, as part of a huge intelligence-gathering operation. Impossible, growled a Zentarian captain, his fur bristling. No species could coordinate on that scale. The logistics alone. That's exactly what the consortium thought. Nexara cut him off. They assumed humans were too chaotic, too individualistic for this kind of long-term strategy. They were wrong. She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on specific incidents. See these attacks. Every time we thought we were finding a weakness in their defenses, we were actually revealing our own capabilities. They didn't just defend against us. They studied us, adapted to us, learned from us. But why reveal this now? Kavor demanded. Why are you telling us? Because the humans want you to understand, Nexara said quietly. They want every pirate crew, every potential raider to know exactly what they're dealing with. It's not just about defending their ships anymore. They're actively hunting threats to their space. The hologram shifted again, showing the devastating precision of the human strike against the consortium's base. Several pirates flinched at the display. They've developed technologies we never imagined. Nexara continued. Weapons that can track ships through hyperspace, defense systems that adapt to any attack pattern, AI systems that can predict raider movements before we even make them. But their greatest weapon? Information. She looked around the table, meeting each captain's eyes in turn. Every time we attack them, they get stronger. Every new tactic we develop, they absorb and improve upon. They've turned their entire merchant fleet into a vast sensor network, gathering data on every ship that comes near their space. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Finally, Kavor spoke again. So what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that the age of raiding human shipping lanes is over, Nexara said firmly. Not because we can't reach their ships, but because every attempt to do so makes them more dangerous. They've weaponized our own aggression against us. As if to emphasize her point, a human merchant ship drifted past the trading post's viewing port. To the untrained eye, it looked vulnerable, tempting. But now the assembled pirates saw it differently, not as prey, but as a sensor node in a vast defensive network, a trap waiting to be sprung. The humans have a saying, Nexara concluded. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They've fooled us enough times. Now they want us to know exactly what we're dealing with, not to frighten us, but to make us understand. The pirates looked again at the passing merchant ship, seeing it with new eyes. It wasn't just a potential target anymore. It was a warning, a reminder that in human space, nothing was quite what it seemed. The lesson. 5 years after the fall of the Drachnid Consortium, Commander Chen stood at the viewport of her new command, the EDF Vigilant. The massive defensive platform hung in high orbit above Earth's newest colony world, its sensors continuously monitoring the surrounding space. Status report, she requested, watching a merchant convoy pass beneath them. All quiet, Commander, Lieutenant Park responded, now sporting captain's bars of his own. No unauthorized vessels within detection range. Civilian shipping traffic proceeding normally. Chen nodded, allowing herself a small smile. The change in the past few years had been remarkable. Pirate attacks on human shipping had dropped to nearly zero. The few attempts that did occur were usually from newcomers who hadn't heard the stories or hadn't believed them. Message incoming from Captain Nexera, Park announced. Her patrol fleet has completed another sweep of the outer sectors. Put her through. The Crexian's image appeared on the main display, her scales now bearing the distinctive insignia of the Joint Defense Force. Commander, she greeted. Monthly patrol complete. 2 attempted incursions detected and deterred. Both rookie crews, they backed off as soon as we identified ourselves. They're learning, Chen observed. Faster than we did, perhaps. They have better teachers, Nexera replied with what passed for a Crexian smile. The demonstration you arranged last month was particularly effective. Chen remembered it well. A group of seasoned raiders had decided to test human defenses, believing the stories of their capabilities to be exaggerated. The response had been swift, coordinated, and overwhelming, but not destructive. Instead of simply destroying the raiders, human forces had disabled their ships with surgical precision, then forced them to watch as their supposedly foolproof attack plan was dismantled step by step. The recording of that incident had spread through the underworld faster than a quantum transmission. Your presence helps, Chen acknowledged. Nothing convinces pirates like hearing it from one of their own. Former pirates, Nexera corrected. Though I must admit, this side of the law has its advantages. Speaking of which, my analysts have completed their review of the data from those last 2 encounters. The display shifted, showing complex patterns of ship movements and energy signatures. We're seeing a significant shift in behavior patterns. The word has spread beyond just avoiding human space. They're actually starting to emulate some of our defensive protocols. Chen studied the data with interest. Adaptation. They're learning that survival requires more than just better weapons or stronger shields. Indeed, Nexera's scales rippled with amusement. Some of my former colleagues have even started offering their services as legitimate security consultants. They've realized there's more profit in protecting shipping lanes than raiding them. Evolution through example, Chen mused. Though I doubt we've seen the last of piracy in human space. No, Nexera agreed. But those who still try are no longer the threat they once were. They attack out of desperation, not calculation. The organized operations, the strategic raids, those have largely ceased. A new alert drew their attention. Another merchant convoy was approaching, this one carrying vital supplies to the colony. 5 years ago, such a target would have been irresistible to raiders. Now it proceeded unmolested, protected not just by its escorts, but by the reputation of human space itself. You know, Nexera said thoughtfully, when I was first captured, I thought humans were simply better at violence, better at war. But that wasn't it at all, was it? No, Chen confirmed. We're better at learning. Every attack taught us something new. Every raid made us stronger. We turned our merchants into sensors, our civilians into intelligence gatherers, our entire transport network into a vast defensive web. Not because we're naturally superior, but because we never stop adapting. The convoy passed beneath them, its ships moving with practiced precision. To an untrained eye, they might have appeared vulnerable. But now every pirate crew in the sector knew better. They understood that in human space, every apparent weakness was a potential trap, every seeming vulnerability a carefully crafted deception. The greatest victory, Chen concluded, isn't destroying your enemy. It's making them understand why fighting you is a mistake in the first place. As if to emphasize her point, the vigilant sensors detected a small ship at the edge of their range, watching the convoy pass. After a moment, it turned and jumped to hyperspace. Another would-be raider deciding that some prizes weren't worth the cost of learning why humans were no longer considered viable targets. The lesson had been learned. In the vast expanse of space, there were easier marks, safer targets, and far less dangerous prey than human shipping lanes. For those who hadn't yet learned this truth, the lesson awaited, and humanity stood ready to teach it, again and again, until even the most ruthless pirates understood why some spaces were better left unrated.